What do you do if your husband is controlling? If he's telling you how to act with the kids, that the house is not clean enough, that you're not dressing as and acting as you were doing in the beginning. So he's complaining, nagging, blaming, criticizing something, and you feel less than, you feel not good enough, not a good enough wife, not a good enough mother. You feel like a child, and he's like telling you that you don't do things well or not doing things correctly. This is very hurtful. Yeah, like it hurts the inner child who just wants to be loved and accepted as is, right? So there are a few ways to deal with this. Um, I want you to know firstly that this happens in most relationships. Um, Somewhere maybe at the age of 70, 80, like we give up to control the other person. We know like we cannot change them and we just give up and just be. What if we do that in the beginning, in our 20s, 30s, 40s? Why not? So we would be so much happier not trying to control the other person. This is just like another thing. Um, Also, what I want you to see is that already by we want to make them stop, right? So by wanting to make them stop, we're already also trying to be controlling. So this happens both ways, but usually we're only seeing the partner when he's controlling. But usually, most of the times, this is studied in psychology that the control is both ways. We just don't see it. We just see it as something else. I'm trying to help him. I'm trying to give him my opinion. I'm trying to tell him the best way to do it. So it sounds like help, but it comes from control. So I'm afraid he won't do it as well as I do it. So I have to tell him how to do it, right? It's another shade of control, let's say, but it's still control, right? So it goes both ways always. So it would be interesting to see that where and how you are doing the same thing or something similar or another shade of control. Control comes in many shades. As Dr. William Glasser, the late Dr. William Glasser, my first mentor, said that control is the killer in relationships. Control is criticism, blaming, complaining, nagging, threatening, bribing, like all this, like trying to control the other person to act in a certain way so you will feel better or not feel bad. So let's go into how-tos, what to do. I will tell you first the ideal that I started seeing, and it's so wonderful. It requires either coaching or some inner work, like inner child work, then like choosing to be the adult, looking at your thoughts, actions, feelings, right? Like it requires a bit of inner work, but it's possible and it's the best thing. I will give you more practical things later. So number one tip is to stop your husband from controlling you and like, or to stop this controlling behavior is actually being a person. So transforming yourself. You can like choose like from one day to another, right? Like if you really want to be the person who is unbothered by control, by how other people try to control them. Like that doesn't mean you're gonna do it, right? Like other people have the right to try to control you. That doesn't mean they can. So nobody can control you. The same way you saw that if you try to control your husband, you can't actually make him do anything. You can see even with children. So we're bigger and wiser and smarter, but many times, like if it's something physical, we cannot make them like we have to even like either cooperate and connect with them, like show them it's for their best interest. Like there's a lot of soft skills there involved. You cannot make a child, even if you sometimes you tell them, you buy them ice cream or something, if they don't want to do something, they won't. So be a person who is unbothered by others trying to control you. So they have the right to try to control you. They have the right to be wrong about you. So even if they tell you you're not a good enough mother, usually this is your interpretation that you're not a good enough mother or wife. They don't say this. They say like the house is not clean enough. Like I don't like how you parent the kids, right? They don't say directly. Your interpretation is I'm not good enough, or they think I'm not good enough. So I have to prove myself, or I have to make them stop because it feels bad. So they might not think this. They might think you're the best mom and the best wife. I would like these things to be better, but that doesn't mean you're not great. I'm going to repeat again. So be the person who is unbothered. People have the right to have a wrong opinion about you. So even if that would be the opinion that you're a bad mom, let's say a bad mom, a bad wife, somebody telling you whatever, they have the right to have a wrong opinion, and it's okay. You can live, you can survive with somebody having a wrong opinion about you. You still know who you are, and you don't have to prove that you're a good mother or a good wife. You just are. It's nothing to prove, it's nothing to explain, it's nothing to fight about. When you arrive at that place of not being triggered, not being bothered, right? Like your inner child is okay. You can adult yourself very well. Like you don't care. Like you look at people who try to control you, like with love and compassion, like for them, like he might not see I'm just great. The trick is that when you become this person, so when you're not bothered by people controlling you, nobody will control you anymore. So this comes in your life. Maybe it's hard to understand. It sounds a bit woo-woo and energy and love, attraction and everything. But when you stop caring, when you're not bothered by anything, not only control, like a lot of things, whatever it is, you can take any situation from your life, from work, relationships. So when you stop caring about something, that thing won't appear in your life anymore. So it's kind of that situation or life or the universe or nature taught you that lesson. So you learned it, right? Like, oh, I'm unbothered, right? Then, okay, like you learned the lesson, like the lesson is not coming to like teach you anymore. I hope it makes sense. I heard it a long time ago, but I must admit it took me a few years to get it like really, really in deep, right? And I'm sure I have a lot of areas in my life where I still have to apply it. Not in my marriage, but in other areas for sure, I'm sure. So remember this. People have the right to be wrong about you, right? And when you will stop being bothered, when you will be just a woman who is in integrity with herself and doesn't get bothered, like you own yourself. Other people, by what they say and what they do, they don't own you. Meaning they cannot change your mood, they cannot change your what you think about yourself. They don't make you defensive, then they don't make you like try to explain and prove yourself because you know who you are and you just are. Again, the thing is, when you become that person, like this thing won't happen anymore. Like you will become magnetic and like just awesome, and people will ask you maybe how you do it, but it won't come anymore in your life. I promise. It happened to me, and I'm thinking about it, right? And I just like I cannot believe this happened, right? Like the change is huge. So really, the controlling disappears. Again, this is a bit not that practical to apply today. This is something to open your mind to just to know you can be that person, because it seems like we grow up by believing that other people can hurt us, right? And even like maybe our parents told us, like, don't say that, like, don't say that the little girl is fat or ugly because you're going to hurt her feelings, right? So, like, be kind. We see this everywhere. Like, oh, be kind, be kind, be kind. Nobody is always kind. Mother Teresa was not always kind. So, nobody's always kind. Instead of, yes, like being kind is great, but we should teach people like to be kind because they feel good, right? Like it's an internal motivation, not because I look well on social media and I help some people, so I'm kind, look at me, right? Like it's just because it feels good to be kind. And also, it's better to teach people not to be bothered if somebody is not kind, because nobody is kind all the time. And if you live with somebody in home, like my daughter is the most amazing person in the universe, but she's not always kind. Like she says things that might hurt my feelings if she like she's upset or she's really not having a good day. She says a lot of things that could easily bother me, but I choose not to be bothered. Like she never bothers me with those things, right? But other mothers would be bothered. So when you live with somebody, and I gave the example with my daughter, because if I would have said like my husband, right, then people try to label others. But if I say my daughter, she's just like innocent girl. If you have a child in your life, you know, like they're innocent beings, they're honest, right? Like they are honest. They will tell you their opinion. They will tell you if you look bad. They will tell you like if you gain some weight, like they will tell you the truth. Should you be bothered by that? No, like it's okay. Where was I going with this? I was just like saying like nobody's kind all the time. So instead of waiting for somebody, like my husband, he should always be kind to me. Yes, ideally, are you always kind to him? The truth is that like no, nobody's kind all the time, and it's okay. It's really okay. I heard this a lot of times from another mentor of mine, Dr. John DeMartini, and I was describing myself saying, "Oh, I don't judge people." A lot of people told me they don't feel judged. Like they told me like really hard situations, women telling me they cheated on their husband, right? And I wasn't judging them. I wasn't feeling bothered by it. And they told me they feel safe that they I don't judge them. So I told somebody that, "Oh, I'm such a good person. I don't judge people." And they showed me like even if you don't judge your clients, there are other people in your life that you judge. And it's true. I judge myself, I judge other people. I don't try to judge my clients because I'm trained not to judge my clients. But it's true that unconsciously I do judge other people. So it's human to not be perfect. Wow, like to not be kind all the time, to not be non-judgmental all the time, to get angry from time to time, right? Like it's human. So you cannot expect somebody to be perfect if you're not perfect, and your mood to be tied to if they are perfect or not. So if he's kind to me today, I will be happy. If he's not kind, I will be sad or frustrated. So it's sad to tie how we feel to how others behave with us. Right. Even if, yes, of course, like this is my work, this is what I'm doing, like creating emotional intimacy and like great communication in marriages. But it starts from the point of not expecting perfection, right? And dealing with yourself, like with your emotions, with your thoughts, and not being bothered. So, ironically, when you're not bothered anymore, the bad behaviors are not showing up anymore. So, yeah, it's crazy. Just like think about it. I just want to open your mind right now. Just knowing that you can choose not to be frustrated when somebody controls you or somebody tells you something that you don't like or you don't agree with, and you don't have to prove yourself and you don't have to explain yourself. Okay, over. So number two, it gets more practical. Number two is more practical, and number three is very practical. Like you can do it next minute after you close video. So number two is they are criticizing about you something, right? Like you put the kids in front of the TV too much. I will say something like from my life, what my husband told me, that you leave all the many years ago, you leave all the cabinet doors open, like in the kitchen. If I was cooking or just like doing something or searching for things, I was just like opening doors and not shutting them back, like just leaving everything open. That must be frustrating, I realize. Right? So he would tell me that psychologically, if you read about this, like criticism is the worst, right? Like it's very damaging to relationships. But unfortunately, the the criticism mostly holds truth. So a lot of the times is criticism is factual. Like you leave the door, like the doors open, like that's factual. We can prove it in a court of law. It's not an opinion. You put the kids in front of the TV. That's factual. You cannot like fight it in a court of law. Oh, a storm is coming. So look for the truth in it, accept it. Like for example, you put the kids in front of the TV too much. Like you put the kids in front of the TV the minute you come home from work, and yeah, you don't connect with them or with us, like you just put them in front of the TV. So agree and see the truth in the criticism and say it. Yeah, I do. I do leave the cabinet doors open. It's true. And then, so accept it or see a little truth in it, right? Even if it's not entirely true, if you look at it factually, agree with it. If you agree with it, the other person won't feel the need to fight you and prove it like, hey, it's true. Most of the times we become defensive and we say like, no, like that's not true. Or we try to explain, I was in a hurry, I needed some time. Like there's an excuse, an explanation, right? Instead of just saying, yeah, you're right. Or yeah, if I look at it like from your point of view, yeah, I see what you mean. So when the other person hears this, they don't feel the need to fight you and prove it, and like there's no power struggle, right? So the message got to you and you just say, yes, it's true. You can leave it at that. Like if you're very empowered and feminine, like I teach, you will say, thank you for loving me anyway. So this is what I did, and the control disappeared. And it's been years and years that like this kind of like little control disappeared. Like I would do a bunch of stuff like open the doors or just do impractical things. My husband is very, very practical and he sees 10 steps ahead. I don't. So I don't see the consequences 10 minutes from now. I just do things, or let's say I leave something on the floor and I don't see that somebody will get hurt maybe in 10 minutes, right? Like I don't see things like this. I'm sorry. He's very practical. He sees, and he would tell me. Now he doesn't anymore. He would tell me, right? And I would get frustrated and annoyed, like trying to control me. And when I did this, like this is what I did, this practical thing. I didn't just become unbothered, what I told you before. So like you cannot do it overnight. Even if you really decide to be that person, maybe you can. I just agreed with it, right? Like, yeah, that's true. I also said that must be very frustrating to you because you're a practical person and suddenly you live with this very unpractical person and it must be very frustrating. And he said, yes, yes, that's true. With the other example, it's actually somebody that I talked to recently. So she was putting the baby in front of her 2-year-old daughter in front of the TV or in front of cartoons or something. And she could have said to her husband who was complaining about this, yes, you're right, especially like from your point of view that you try to do other things with her, like go out or play with her or just do activities with her. So I see that from your point of view, who like you're avoiding screens, I can see why it's like that from your point of view. So agree, even like maybe empathize, but mostly say at the end, like this is the empowered way. Like, thank you for loving me anyway. Like it's frustrating for you, and thank you for loving me anyway, because they do. If they are there, they are married with you, they're there, they love you, right? So thank you for loving me anyway. So it's peace, calm, no fight, no like these things are daily occurrings for people, daily, the same thing over and over and over, because the message does not get there. The person isn't bothered and is bothered, easily bothered and triggered and defensive because the inner child is triggered, right, and feels unloved and unseen and appreciated. And like, yeah, and we just do this hours. Like if you measure the hours in a week, it's hours and hours a week where we fight and we have power struggles for nothing, basically. It's so easy to stop it. And number three, um it's two practical things actually. I'll just pause it for a second because I hear the rain in the house somewhere. Just a second. Back. A storm started and I had all my windows open. So number three, very practical, is something that I teach called the nonverbal communication. So if you ever read about communication or nonverbal communication is actually 90% of communication. So what we do and what we are available for says more than our words. So what I would do if I couldn't do the thing with agreeing and empathizing and then saying, thank you, you love me anyway, is just leaving the room. So if you stay in the situation and fight and explain and write and like become defensive, it's like you're energetically or non-verbally, it's non-verbal communication, even if you say, I'm not available for this, like, I won't allow you to control me and tell me what to do and how to do it and how to raise my children and how to leave, if to leave the doors open or not. Like, I'm not a child. Don't tell me what to do. If you do this, you're actually communicating that you're available for it. Really, 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 really think about this. So if you're not available for this, you just leave the room. Like I said in another video, I don't do control. If somebody tries to control me, like, okay, they can, but I will leave the room. I often give this example with smoking. So if you don't like smoke, instead of begging a person to leave the room, a person who is smoking to leave the room, and the room is full of smoke, like, instead of like staying in the smoke, right, and saying, I don't want to stay in smoke, like in a smoky room, right, like, you just leave. Like, you protect what is valuable to you. You leave the room. Simple as that. So you can start with this if you feel like it's not possible to do the agree, empathize, and say thank you or appreciate, or like, thank you for loving me anyway, right? If you don't feel like so in control of yourself, then leave the room. Don't be available for fights. Don't be available for somebody trying to control you. Another practical, like, it's still number 3, right? It's through practical things. One is nonverbal communication. Another, what you can say verbally if you don't want to leave the room or it's not possible. Let's say you're in the car. By the way, don't have, like, try to not talk in the car about big subjects. A lot of people fight in the car. Like, it's something with cars and how, like, we don't see each other face to face, that, like, we start fighting. I won't go into this, but try to not have like big talks in the car about like subjects that are touchy. So the practical thing from verbal communication is from another mentor of mine, just say ouch, right? So somebody's saying like, you did this, I don't like how you do this, like, ouch, right? So you're kind of saying that this hurts, you don't like this behavior, but you're not, again, you're still staying strong in your energy, in your posture, in your attitude, everything. But it's kind of saying that I know you don't want to hurt me, right? Like, they are your husband. I know you don't want to hurt me, but this hurts. Ouch. So I love this. This is very practical. Actually, the way I wrote them, I wrote them in the way I arrived at them, but like, I should have put them reversed, right? So very practical, easy to do. Leave the room or say ouch, because maybe you're not in the place yet to do the others, right? So I hope you like these. These are very, very, very effective, like the most effective. Of course, the first one is becoming the person, being the person who is confident is like the best. Right, like, doing the other things also like helps you become this person, like being the person who's not bothered, who's not triggered, who's confident, and who accepts people for who they are, and everything's peace and love, right? Like, that is the best. I won't say I'm like that all the time, but I touched it, I felt it, I've been there, like in that place, and it's paradise. It's really awesome. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. I don't know yet what it will be, but you can leave some suggestions here on YouTube or on Facebook or whatever you see this video. But yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm still doing the 15-day challenge where I'll post a video a day. Bye-bye.